Now imagine if you can see yourself as a leader, independent of your role, your status, your color, your gender, your nationality, it does not matter. If you are a sentient being on this planet, you are a leader. You have a company filled with people, all in the same situation you are, unexamined, unquestioned thoughts. They believe they are their thoughts, and the CEO will wonder why he or she can't get the company from 50 million to a billion. You marry expertise, knowledge with a way of being that's consistent with what you want to create. I won't bet against that person or that company.
Welcome back to Talent Hunters, powered by MRI Network, where each week we talk with the world's top talent strategists and executive recruiters. If you want to build talented teams that drive your company to big goals and big growth, then this podcast is for you. And now, let's join the conversation with today's episode of Talent Hunters.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Vince Holt, and I'm the host of Talent Hunters. And today, I'm eagerly anticipating a great conversation. We have Jamie Damsker, the founder of Jamie Damsker, LLC, located in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. Now, what's exciting is Jamie is a veteran. Thank you for your service, Jamie. Really appreciate it. Moving forward, the last 10 years, Jamie has focused on, and I quote, leadership coaching to the truly committed, a keynote speaker for the decidedly curious, and an author to the insatiably inquisitive. Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you, Vince. Pleasure to be here with you. Great introduction.
I'm looking forward
it.
to this. I really am. So, starting career as a pilot in the military, transitioning into corporate America. You're now speaking and coaching and helping people in whatever corporate discipline they have. Maybe it's not even just corporate, but in a brief description, what got you to where you are today in your career?
Luck, really. Right place at the right time. But 10 years ago, when I woke up some morning in October 2014, I was running a consulting practice with two partners who owned it, and I was helping them grow it. It was still is a beautiful ongoing concern that did consulting work for aspects of the Defense Department. My beautiful wife, my two beautiful boys at the time, they were much younger, of course, and I went to an event at my alma mater, which is the Citadel here in Charleston, and I met someone accidentally who said he was a coach. And I spent a whole day with him and some of the Citadel cadets. It was a career day type of a thing that the details don't matter. And I just had an experience of this man who said he's a coach. One, I had no idea what a coach was at the time, Vince. I know what a mentor is. I know what a guide is. I know I had a sense of what a leader is. Coach to me was sports related. I learned about what he did. I didn't understand it. I had no idea and why all of these cadets were drawn to this guy. It was like a magnetism I just could not describe. And it kind of threw me off the rest of the day. He shared an ebook that I read that night, the next day, and it really moved something inside of me. And fortunately, he lived locally. I reached out to him and we started talking, and I just had this thought, I want to do that. Now, as I think about it, I did my own version of it throughout my whole life in leadership roles, but nothing so, I'd say, high level, high stakes, high impact that really gets to the heart of what gets in the way for us creating the outcomes that we say. So I worked with him. And again, through luck, at the same time I started working with him, he working with his coach. Like, I think it's really important that your coach has a coach, just like your doctor should have a doctor. He and his coach were co-creating a company called Onticore. And you'll see that in my bio as well. And it was looking to create a more formal, as opposed to just a one-person coaching business that could serve a C-suite with more than just one coach. And some companies, for whatever reason, they want to see a substantial company behind someone like a Fortune 50 before they'll invest a lot of money for their CEO to have a coach. They created that company simply by proximity to it. It created an opportunity for me to first work with literally the top coaches on the planet and hone my own skills as a coach. And fast forward 10 years, and today, yes, you mentioned the name of my company. It is my company, and I'm still very much a part of Entrecourt. We have corporate clients. We have one-on-one private clients. We do a leadership training twice a year out in Dana Point, California. And I really haven't looked back except for the transition from one to the other. So I know luck sounds a little bit trite to put it that way, but I don't have the story like some people do. Like it was a calling and they just they felt this more inside of them. No, I was so asleep to what's inside of me, Vince. I was driven, like most of us, by my ego, so much so that I couldn't see it getting in the way. And once I was able to do the work with these spectacular coaches I hired, it gave me access to something inside of me that it's like when a smoker stops smoking and they can taste food for the first time, really taste food in years. I opened my eyes to what's possible in life. And to your point earlier when you introduced me, every domain of your life. Yes, people will predominantly hire me because they want to create something more in their business. And I've never not worked with someone where we haven't looked at their marriage, their relationship with their children, their health, their spirituality, any domain of their life that matters to them. And there's a connective tissue among them. So I've been with CEOs and we've worked together for them to create a marriage that will bring tears to your eyes. And I'm really clear, you handle that at home, it has an impact on how you show up when you put the suit and tie on and you go to work or with their kids. Yeah, it's magical to me what gets created. I hope that was responsive to your question about how I got into this.
You demonstrate something that's very close to my heart, and that is passion. It's clear that when you got introduced to this, to your point, inside of you, it touched your heart, and you're now driven by your passion to help people, whether it's CEOs or anybody that reaches out to you. How do you get people, how do you draw out that passion to succeed at whatever they're asking you to do? Because that's what they're doing. They're asking you to present to people or to individuals, okay, to get them inspired, no matter what the inspiration is for. But you're asked to draw that passion out of them. How do you reach into them that way?
Sin. The word passion, yes, I am passionate about what I do. I am being passionate. The word passion doesn't occur for me as useful in my work, Vince. I know that can sound a bit counterintuitive. It occurs to me that saying something more about my work would be instructive in responding to your question. May I do that?
Please.
Yeah. So my work, whether it's in coaching or it's in the keynote speaking I do, is all about leadership and performance. I said when I was sharing my story about when I found a coach, I said, well, I knew what leadership was. And if you heard me, I corrected myself. I said, well, my version of leadership, which is a common version. I have a very, very different relationship with leadership today, which could have me be able to sit and coach a student, to a retiree, to a homemaker, to an executive, to an athlete, to a physician, to an entrepreneur. Leadership is not a role. Leadership, we all have leadership. We have, we like to talk about, well, we have agency over ourselves. We have leadership. Every one of us. The sad statement is, I don't know if I call it sad, but the reality is most of us give that up. And ironically, no one can take it from you. We voluntarily give it up. Well, I'm not a leader. He is a CEO or she's a CEO, or I don't have enough money in the bank to be a leader, or man, I can't even keep a spouse. I'm divorced. I can't and we actually believe that. And we create our lives from that place. Now imagine if you can see yourself as a leader, independent of your role, your status, your color, your gender, your nationality, it does not matter. If you are a sentient being on this planet, you are a leader. You have the keys to your own kingdom. Now, my work is helping people see, how do you become a more effective leader? And I hold leadership. I take a stand for it. It's a way of being. The distinction there, Vince, is there's what I know, knowledge, and there's who I am, way of being. The vast majority of us look to solve our problems, to become better leaders by knowing more stuff. I can't figure that out. I got to go read another book. Or they need to go read something. And yet, if you think about all of the learned individuals out there, experts in their field, what has them hit that wall? They read all the books. Heck, you can read all the books on leadership. There's 40-something thousand, I think, on Amazon. Yet, we have a dearth of effective leadership if you just look at the headlines all the time. What if you're open to the idea that effective leadership is who you're being? Who you're being. Now, you could say, well, that's easy. Just tell me who to be and I'll be it. Well, what I just said and the work behind it is very simple. It's also hard. And it's hard because we have this thing between our ears called our brain, which generates thoughts. 30,000 to 60,000 a day. It's our greatest resource, bar none. It's our greatest adversary, bar none. And we get to dance with it from cradle to grave. So all of those thoughts that get created, Vince, what percentage would you guess are useful? Now, let me define useful for you. A useful thought would be one that supports the outcome or the action that you say you want to create or do. What percentage of those 30 to 60,000 do you think?
I'm not big on percentages. I apologize, because I was told one time, and I bought into this, is percentages are simply made up numbers to justify what I'm about to say. So,
fair enough.
So what I would say is, and I'm a big 51-49% person. Okay. I'm either committed or not committed. And so I would venture to say, to answer your question, probably in the venue you're looking for, is I would be a 51% person more than a 49% person.
Okay. I would tell you that no more than 5% of your thoughts are useful. 5%. So what you're looking at is about a ratio of 20 to 1. So I'll give you an example. Someone wants to do something bold in their life, start a new career, or go ask that girl out. The way our brain works, see, it still operates like we're still living in caves. It's in survival mode. And that's a good thing. We want it to help us survive. But the threats, the woolly mammoths, the dinosaurs aren't around anymore. Yet we still act like it's life or death to get thrown out of the cave with the fire and the warmth and the safeties of others. And our brains want to protect us. That's a good thing. However, unless it's literally fight or flight, it's not useful. So you've got 95% of your thoughts would say, man, don't ask that girl out. She'll say no. You'll make a fool of yourself. You won't say the right thing. She's too good. You can fill in the blank of all those thoughts. And just 5% of them would be, yeah, you're worth it. She'll say yes. What do you have to lose? And they compete with each other. And Vince, to get to the heart of why that matters and why I said this work is simple but hard, We go our entire lives and our thoughts, all of them, are unexamined and unquestioned. And all we have to do is look at how easily we can go from one emotion to another. You're driving along. It's Friday afternoon. You're going home. Date night with your spouse. It's a good week at work. The sun is shining. You're whistling. And then someone cuts you off. And in an instant, son of a, and you're angry. And then maybe a few minutes later, you'll get happy again. Or maybe you'll bring it home and you'll actually share it with your spouse. This guy just cut. And the language we use is, I am angry. What if we change that to, I have the thought of anger? You see, we have a relationship with our thoughts like we are them. And they're unexamined and they're unquestioned. And we whipsaw through life like that. So when I say, you're not your thoughts, what I'm really saying is, you have an opportunity to upgrade your relationship with them such that when all 95% come at you that's not useful and the 5% are kind of lost in the mix of that, you can actually be awake enough to know that none of them are true. They're just thoughts. Like, our thoughts aren't true. They're just thoughts. What if you believe the ones that served you and not the others? What if you came home and your spouse did something that annoyed you? You walked in the house, it was dirty or something wasn't ready, and you reminded yourself, wait a minute, what am I committed in this relationship to creating? Oh, that's right. In this case, for me, my wife, I'm committed to her being loved. I'm committed to her being cherished. And I was about to say something, from that unexamined, unquestioned thought that would be counter to that commitment I just said. We all live that way. Unquestioned, I live that way. And when your ego is unquestioned in the way, all it wants to do is protect you, have you look good. And looking good could be, I'm not going to stand down. She said she'd do that. Now take that to work. You have a company filled with people, all in the same situation you are, unexamined, unquestioned thoughts. They believe they are their thoughts, and the CEO will wonder why he or she can't get the company from 50 million to $1 billion. Why can't I get them to do that? Well, my work is not about them. My work is about the leader. Who are they being? You want to be passionate. You want to be trustworthy. You want to be an effective leader. How can you do that consistently if you are at the mercy of those thoughts? So my work, the work that we do at Entrecore, is about getting to the heart of being awake to your relation with your thoughts. And there's other aspects of, I'll say, the philosophy we use for leadership that can now take that relation with your thoughts and make you hyper effective regardless of the circumstance you're in or the person on the other side of the table. See, I don't care about generational differences. I don't care about gender differences. I don't care about your color, your sexual orientation. I do not care. If I'm committed to creating a relationship with you, and that relationship is built around, let's say, work, I'm going to do what's required to create workability in that relationship. Oh, by the way, sometimes that workability in the relationship looks like they're the wrong person for the job. The competence isn't there, or I'm more committed to them being effective than they are. How great would it be if you got to the heart of that quicker? I wish I had $1 for every leader I worked with who hung on to a non-performer for 9 months, 12 months, because of the thoughts that they have about maybe next time, or they don't want to deal with the drama of letting them go. What if you got to the heart of it so that instead of 9 months or 12 months, you realized it just wasn't a good hire? We go back and look at our interview process. We'll do that, but I can assess it like they're not the right person and go be with them to effectively have them removed. They don't want to be there anyway if they know they're not performing. No one does. I don't care what they say. And to help them effectively, without judgment, move on to the next thing and then feel like you're behind them, help them find the next thing? How would you love to have a fired employee who sings your praises? I've seen that. I've seen that. That's the heart of my work, Vince. And when I say it's about being, not knowing, look, I want you to be knowledgeable. I'm not naive. I want you to be an expert in what you do to create performance with that knowledge. You marry expertise, knowledge, with a way of being that's consistent with what you'd want to create. I won't bet against that person or that company. That's what I do. So nothing in what I just said was passion. I appreciate that passion comes up, or it can come up, when you love what you do and when you see the results are consistent with the big, bold results you say you want. But I'd say the passion is sort of a byproduct of the outcome, not necessarily I need to bring passion to create it. Because if I bring passion with those unquestioned thoughts, I'll bring the other mischievous stuff with it too, which is doubt and grief and resentment and all the other stuff. So I'm really clear that the emotional stuff has a place in my life, not when I'm looking to create effective leadership.
So how do you measure success in what you do?
That's a great question. My success is measured in how effective my clients are in them achieving what they define as success. I'm not someone who comes into a relationship or interaction with a human being with any desire to tell them what they need. That's arrogance. And I know there are people out there who do that. Like, look, you need to work less hours, or you need to go, oh man, with your personality, with your DISC results or your Myers-Briggs, you should be going, sit with me. Let's really get underneath what's in the way, the layers of all the years you and I have been alive. The unquestioned and unexamined thoughts just create layer upon layer upon layer, where the real us, Vince, is so lost inside of that. Like there's a version that's out. I want to be really clear. We're all great right where we are. Like I love people for who they are, and not everybody. In fact, most people don't want to examine themselves as I'm suggesting. I grant them that space. I love them for who they are. They likely wouldn't want to work with me. It's the person or the people who wake up and they either have the thought, there's something more. Yeah. In an interaction with me, which happens just as often, like what happened with me with my first coach at that event 10 years ago, it literally shifted my foundation, literally shifted it. And then I had this nagging feeling that there's more for me. I had a great job, made great money, beautiful wife. She's in a successful dental practice. My two little blonde-haired, blue-eyed boys are in the best private school in Charleston at the time. Like everything was perfect until I realized it wasn't. It was great, but so what? I wanted something else called to me. And yes, the passion showed up as a byproduct of being in the thing that I want to do, including the speaking. Like I know when I stand in front of a room of people, while it's not as intimate as my one-on-one coaching, I get to share aspects of leadership performance with them, from the CEO to the intern and everyone in between, and seeing all those faces and engaging with them and feeling their energy lights me up. It inspires me. So I do that as much for me as them. And there's nothing as special and intimate as a one-on-one, knees-to-knees coaching relationship. And I get them both. And I created that. And I promise you, I had the thoughts in my head of doubt. Can I do this? What training do I have? I had a very, very modest upbringing. Yeah, it was a world that was a bit intimidating to me. And yeah, I can get behind that in me, and I can help other people get behind that themselves. And what gets created, to your question about how do I define success, it's them being out in the world, moving through the world as an effective, powerful leader, creating what they desire. We at Encore, we hold the definition of powerful leadership as creating a future that would not have been created. You see, our lives are on a path. If we don't do anything, we'll live into a default future, and they're different for each domain of our life. Some of them, that's mighty fine. Yeah, I don't need leadership there. It's going to happen how it happens. But if it's not going how you want, if you want more romance, if you want your spouse to love you more, if you want your company to perform more, I promise you, the answer is leadership. You show me a high-performing organization, including a family relationship, I will show you effective leadership. You show me performance that has room for improvement, and I won't have to sit long with the leaders of the organization to find a beautiful opportunity for them to upgrade themselves as leaders to create performance. Those two things are inextricably linked. That includes in our marriages, in our relationships. I said leadership isn't a role. You show up as an effective leader in your marriage, creating a future that would not have been created. We also need to take into account the needs of the other people. That's part of it. This is not about being a bull in a china shop. It's what can have me sit with someone I have to let go because they're not competent in the job, and serve them in that conversation.
Leadership isn't a word from the standpoint of the answer. Leadership starts from within. In order for me, you, anybody else to be an effective leader, they got to learn how to lead themselves first. Agree?
I think that's a very accurate statement.
Because
a very
good
accurate
leader's
statement.
asking questions, observing, finding out how can we get better, rather than I know this is where we're going to, that's all ego. To your point, you defined it best. I tend to simplify things from the standpoint of, I agree with everything you said as far as I'm in the same boat. There are no silos of people, religion, color, any of that stuff. We're all in this country because we have an opportunity to succeed at whatever our passion is. There's people with extreme passions, there's extreme goals, people with less extreme wants and desires. Doesn't make any difference. It's what that person wants. So leadership, if you can't lead yourself, how can you lead other people? I buy into everything you're saying. It's the one thing that I was hoping to draw out of you in this is I get the leadership part. Because if CEOs are asking you to help them increase revenue or whatever, discover an issue that can make our company better or something like that, you said it. It starts with that leader. And in order for you to be able to add value to that leader, you have to ask a lot of questions. Because you have to know that person to be able to challenge them in where they want to go and so forth. Is that your style?
What you said occurs to me as accurate. If someone asks me a how-to question, how do I do this? I don't have in my work how conversations. I have who conversations. And an example I've probably used countless times, it's a rather simple one. If I'm with someone and they're at an intersection and they ask me, should I go left or right or straight? I promise you, I will not tell them which way to go. That's the old expression, teach a man to fish or give him a fish. It's something along those lines. What I want them to do is to discover through self-inquiry, who are they being at the intersection? How do they experience themselves at the intersection? Are they clear about what it is they want to create? What's in the way for them to create it? And oftentimes, Vince, not always, but oftentimes what they'll discover is left, right, and straight was playing so small. There are infinite other directions to go. And they discover that. It's like someone hires me, they have a goal, something they want to create, an outcome. It's not uncommon that as they start on this journey with me, they discover the outcome that they had when they met me is really small relative to what they now see they can create as an effective leader with themselves and others. So you're spot on. It starts with me. I will always bring my clients back to who are they being. It's easy. We want to point as the cause and the matter of what happens to us outside of ourselves. It's where I was born. It's who I was born. It's my education. It's my upbringing. It's how I look. And 99.9999% of the people on this planet will get behind you in that. They'll go, oh, yeah, you're right. Awesome. Yeah. And they'll commiserate. And that's when we'll be vulnerable with each other. I don't do vulnerability. I do authenticity. When you can 100% rapidly hold yourself accountable for everything that happens in your life will change dramatically. When I first started this work, I'll give you one a glimpse of one personal example because I had permission from my wife to expose some of it. That day I went and I met my coach in October 2014. My marriage was fine. It was fine. You ask my wife what it's like today, it's night and day. And I went from fine, wasn't beating my wife. Like we had a fine marriage, but I look back on it, I wouldn't give you couldn't give me all the money in the world to go back and be that version of myself for me to have created that relationship. And it's funny, at a certain point in this work, I could tell you that my wife changed. But the reality is she likely did, but I changed me in the relationship. I took 100% responsibility. This thing called being, Vince, who you're being has an impact outside of you. So if you're being love, you create love. If you're being impatience, you create impatience. And to my earliest point, why? That sounds really simple, doesn't it? Oh, so if I just be this, I'll create something? Yes. What gets in the way? I just told you. The unexamined, unquestioned thoughts, like I swear I'm going to be happy. And then the IRS sends you a letter. Or, we had to postpone our first scheduled conversation because my wife's father had passed away and she's from Norway. We had to travel. Look, I don't make light of death of a family member. And I was committed while we were over in Norway where she's from, seeing some family and friends we hadn't seen for years. I was committed to creating in them joy and love. How do I do that? I hope people who are listening are catching on. I was being joy and love. Did we cry and hug? Of course we did. Of course. And I don't confuse those two things. And even today, my wife would get comments from some people, that was the most beautiful funeral. And then the social afterwards. Well, yeah, I can take it all together. Who I'm being, independent of the conditions outside of me. Yeah. If anyone who's listening, if the only thing they took away from our conversation, Vince, was so who I'm being is what matters as a leader, and who I'm being has an impact outside of me. And I'm not my thoughts. I am not my thoughts. They take those things away. I know what happens, and it's pretty profound.
Well said, my friend. Very well said. Jamie, I want to thank you so very, very much for this time that you've taken to spend with me. I really am. Our audience is going to be very appreciative too. I thank you for your service, and I thank you for everything that you're giving back to the people you're interfacing with, because you're giving the opportunity to people to be what they want to be, what they need to be, and really who they are, even though they may not know it. How do people find you, Jamie? Because people are going to want to learn more about you. How do they find you?
They can find me through my website, which is jamiedamsker.com, and entrecore.com as well for the broader organization. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, but that's if you really want to learn about my dogs, you go to those two. I'll share a little bit more. Yeah. My wife and I are a little bit passionate about our dogs and our children. We love them too. But I'd say LinkedIn is probably my website, probably the best places to connect with me. And then if someone wants to have a more personal interaction with me, I'm pretty sure all my contact information is on both of those. I try to make it as easy as possible if someone wants to reach out for us to engage in a conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you again for taking the time. It's been an inspiration. It really has.
I appreciate you, Vince.